Lyra tried to move, but her body would not obey. Pain cut through her legs and arms. She had fallen during the battle, and now the ground beneath her was cold and rough. Dust filled the air and smoke rose from distant fires. Her species, the Zalari, had fought hard against the invaders, but in the end, they had abandoned her. They thought she would not survive, so they left her behind. She was alone. Lyra remembered the bright skies of her home planet, the green forests and the sparkling rivers. Those memories made the pain sharper because now everything around her was gray and broken. She tried to drag herself forward, but her strength was almost gone. Each breath hurt and her vision blurred. She could hear strange noises in the distance. Small creatures scuttled in the dust, and far away a loud roar echoed. It sounded like the predators that lived on this planet. Lyra knew she had to hide. She crawled into the shadow of a ruined wall, hoping the predators would not find her. Her heart beat fast. She thought about giving up, but something inside her told her to keep trying. Hours passed, though it felt like days. Lyra's wounds ached and hunger gnawed at her stomach. She tried to remember the survival lessons she had learned as a child. Drink water when it is available. Avoid loud noises and always move carefully. She found a small puddle of water and drank slowly. It was not much, but it gave her enough energy to continue. Night came and the temperature dropped. Lyra shivered under the dark sky. The stars looked so different here, so far from home. She felt alone. For the first time, she wondered if she would ever see her family again. Doubt crept into her mind. Maybe the Zalari were right. Maybe she would not survive. But then she thought about her parents. She remembered her father's gentle voice and her mother's kind smile. She remembered her sister laughing in the sunlight. Those memories gave her a small spark of hope. She decided she would not die here. Not yet. The next morning, Lyra tried to stand, but her legs could not hold her weight. She fell back into the dust. A low growl came from nearby. She froze. A predator was close. She looked around for a weapon, but found nothing. All she had was her courage. The predator appeared, a large creature with sharp teeth and glowing eyes. It sniffed the air and moved toward her. Lyra's heart raced. She tried to stay calm. She remembered the lessons her trainer had given her. Make yourself look bigger, make noise, and show that you are not easy prey. Lyra raised her arms and shouted. Her voice was weak, but it carried enough to startle the creature. It hesitated and backed away, watching her with its glowing eyes. She took a deep breath and crawled toward the broken wall again. The predator followed, but it kept its distance. She was lucky, but she could not stay here forever. Days passed. Lyra kept moving, hiding during the day and traveling at night. She ate small plants and drank water from puddles. She learned which areas were safe and which were dangerous. Every step was painful, but she refused to stop. She could feel herself getting weaker, but she also felt her mind growing sharper. She had to survive. One evening she saw smoke in the distance. It was not the smoke of the battle she had been left behind in. This was different. It was rising in straight lines, clean and organized. She thought about going closer, but fear held her back. Her instincts told her to stay hidden. She waited, watching from a distance. Then she saw it, a small ship descending. It had lights and strange shapes moving inside. Lyra's heart raced. She had never seen a human ship before, but she had heard stories. Humans were explorers and fighters. Some Zalari feared them, but others admired their courage. The ship landed in a clearing. Small figures moved around it, dressed in light armor. Lyra watched, her curiosity growing. She wanted to call out, but her voice was too weak. She stayed hidden, hoping they would leave something behind, something she could use. As night fell, the humans left the clearing. Lyra approached cautiously. The ground was warm where the ship had landed. She saw small tracks left by the humans. She followed them slowly, keeping low and quiet. Maybe, just maybe, she could find help. Suddenly, a human voice shouted in the distance. Lyra froze. She had never heard a human speak before. The voice was calm but firm. It called out to the others, giving orders. She realized they were soldiers or explorers, organized and disciplined. Lyra felt hope. Maybe these humans could help her. She wanted to call out again, but she remembered her weakness. She could not make a sound without risking collapse. She watched as they set up a temporary camp, lights glowing in the darkness. She waited until everyone was settled and then crawled closer. Her wounds burned and her body protested, but she forced herself forward. She reached the edge of the camp and watched. The humans were busy, moving quickly and carefully. They did not notice her. Then she saw him, a young human named Jack Carter. He moved differently from the others. He was slower, more observant, and his eyes scanned the area with care. He noticed something in the distance, a small movement. Lyra froze. He looked directly at her hiding spot. Jack did not shout or call others. He walked slowly toward her, holding his hands out. His expression was calm, not threatening. Lyra felt a strange sensation, a mix of fear and hope. She wanted to trust him but could not be sure. She stayed still, hoping he would leave. But he came closer, kneeling a short distance away. He spoke softly, words she did not understand, but his tone was kind. He reached for her slowly, showing he meant no harm. Lyra's body trembled. She wanted to move, to flee, but her strength was gone. She could not. Jack saw this and quickly adjusted. He fetched a small cloth and gently cleaned some of her wounds. Lyra gasped at the touch. It had been so long since anyone had cared for her. Jack looked around, checking for dangers. The other humans were busy with their tasks, unaware of Lyra's presence. He spoke again softly and offered her some water. Lyra hesitated, then drank. Her throat burned and the water felt strange, but it gave her strength. Jack realized she needed more help. He lifted her carefully, speaking reassuringly. Lyra's eyes filled with tears. She had been alone for so long, abandoned and wounded. Now, for the first time in days, she felt safe. He carried her to the ship. Medics and crew members gathered around, examining her wounds. They moved quickly but gently, showing care and skill. Lyra felt warmth she had not known in a long time. She wanted to speak, to thank them, but her voice was still weak. Jack stayed by her side, holding her hand. He did not rush or force her to speak. Lyra realized that humans were patient, something she had never experienced before. Her heart began to heal along with her body. She began to believe that she might survive this and maybe even live again. As the ship lifted off, Lyra looked out at the barren planet below. She had left it behind, but it would always be a part of her. Now she had a chance to start again, to see what life could be like with humans, with Jack, and maybe one day with hope restored. She closed her eyes and let the gentle hum of the ship's engines carry her toward a new beginning. Lyra woke slowly, her head aching and her body still sore from the injuries she had suffered. The human ship hummed softly around her, lights glowing gently from the ceiling. She blinked, adjusting to the brightness. Everything felt strange but safe. For the first time in days, she did not feel the constant fear that had followed her on the barren planet. Jack Carter sat nearby, watching her carefully. He smiled when he saw her open her eyes.
"You're awake," he said softly.
His voice was calm and steady. Lyra tried to speak, but her throat was dry. Jack noticed and handed her a cup of water. She drank slowly, grateful for the simple kindness. Over the next few hours, the medics checked her wounds again. They cleaned the cuts, applied new bandages, and gave her medicine to fight infection. Lyra felt a strange mix of relief and nervousness. She had been abandoned before, but these humans were different. They were gentle, careful, and determined to help her survive. Jack stayed near her, explaining small things about the ship and its crew. Lyra listened, fascinated. Everything was new, from the lights that changed colors to the small machines that beeped and moved on their own. She asked questions, and Jack answered patiently. His patience and calm presence made her feel safe. Over the next day, Lyra began to regain some strength. She could sit up and eat small meals. The crew showed her how to drink water from a cup without spilling, and how to take medicine when needed. Lyra had never experienced such care. She had always been independent, but here, someone else's help was welcome. She learned to communicate using a small translator device the humans had. Her language was different, but the machine allowed her to speak and understand. She told Jack about her home, the forests, rivers, and the cities of her people. She told him about the battle, about being left behind, and about the fear she had felt. Jack listened without interruption, nodding and showing understanding. Jack shared stories of humans as well. He spoke of exploration, helping others, and the struggles humans faced across their galaxy. Lyra was amazed at how different humans were from the Zalari. They seemed to value life, teamwork, and compassion in ways she had never known. She began to feel admiration for them. As days passed, Lyra started walking with help. She practiced small steps with Jack and a medic supporting her. Each step was painful, but she felt progress. Her muscles, weakened from the injury, were slowly regaining strength. Lyra realized that humans were patient, giving her time to recover at her own pace. During this time, she noticed the bond forming between her and Jack. He was always nearby, watching for dangers and guiding her with encouragement. She began to trust him more than she had trusted anyone since being abandoned. A quiet understanding developed between them, a bond built on survival, respect, and shared experiences. Lyra also observed the rest of the crew. They were busy, moving from one task to another, but they treated her with kindness. She noticed their laughter, their teamwork, and the way they looked out for one another. It was different from her species, where weakness often meant being left behind. Humans seemed to believe that helping each other made everyone stronger. One evening, Jack took Lyra to a window that looked out into space. Stars stretched across the black sky and distant planets glowed faintly. Lyra felt a sense of wonder. She had never traveled this far from her home planet. She realized that humans were explorers in a way her people had never been. They moved through the stars with curiosity and courage. Jack spoke softly, pointing to a distant planet. "One day we'll visit worlds like this. You'll see more than you ever imagined." Lyra nodded, her heart filled with hope. For the first time, she allowed herself to dream about the future, a future where she could live and perhaps even thrive. Over the next week, Lyra's body grew stronger. She could walk without help for short distances and even assist with small tasks on the ship. She learned to operate simple devices and help with minor repairs. Jack watched her closely, impressed by her resilience. Lyra's determination inspired the crew as much as their support inspired her. Lyra began to understand human customs. She learned to greet people with a nod or a smile, and discovered that humans valued honesty and courage. She saw that even when humans disagreed, they treated each other with respect. These lessons slowly reshaped her understanding of trust and loyalty. During her recovery, Lyra also learned about human battles. Jack explained that humans fought not only to protect themselves but also to defend others. She thought about her own people and the battle she had survived. There was a difference, she realized, between fighting for survival and fighting for a greater purpose. Humans seemed to fight for something beyond themselves. One day, while exploring a small corridor, Lyra found a storage room filled with supplies. She saw food, clean clothes, and other items. She realized that humans prepared for every situation, always thinking ahead. Lyra marveled at their foresight. She wished her own species had cared for one another the way humans did. Jack found her there and smiled. "I thought you might like this place. You can pick anything you need." Lyra hesitated, then chose a simple garment to replace her torn clothes. She felt gratitude swell inside her. For the first time since being abandoned, she felt cared for, safe, and valued. Night came again, and Lyra lay on a small cot, staring at the ceiling. She thought about the battle, about being abandoned, and about the humans who had saved her. She realized that trust was possible even after betrayal. She realized that humans, though different, had something powerful, compassion, and she had experienced it firsthand. As she drifted to sleep, Jack sat nearby, keeping watch. Lyra felt a calmness she had never known. She was wounded and abandoned once, but now she had found safety and hope. For the first time in her life, she believed that she could survive. Not just physically, but emotionally. Humans had shown her that survival was more than staying alive. It was about connection, care, and courage. Lyra closed her eyes, dreaming of the stars outside the ship. She dreamed of distant worlds, of humans who believed in helping others, and of the strange, wonderful future that awaited her. She no longer felt completely alone. She had been wounded and abandoned, but she had found something more powerful than fear, trust and hope, and that was a beginning she would never forget. Lyra had been on the human ship for several weeks now. Her body was healing and her strength was returning. She could walk without help and even run short distances on the ship's deck. The crew had begun to trust her, and she had learned to trust them. Jack Carter had become her guide, teacher, and friend. She still remembered the fear she had felt on the barren planet, but it was slowly fading. Each day, Jack showed her new things about human technology. Lyra was fascinated by the small devices that could communicate across light years, the engines that allowed the ship to move faster than any Zalari vessel, and the systems that kept the ship alive in space. She learned quickly, her mind eager to understand. The translator device had helped her speak more fluently. Lyra shared stories of her home, her people, and the battles she had survived. The crew listened, asking questions and showing genuine interest. Lyra realized that humans were not only strong but also curious and willing to learn. She admired this quality deeply. Jack introduced her to the ship's training exercises. Humans trained their bodies and minds every day. Lyra struggled at first, but she was determined to keep up. Jack encouraged her, helping her adjust her movements and offering advice. Slowly, she improved, and soon she was able to participate in simple drills. Her confidence grew and she began to feel useful again. Lyra also learned about human values. Jack explained that humans believed in helping others, protecting those in need, and working together. Lyra had never experienced this kind of loyalty and care. In her own species, survival often meant abandoning the weak. She began to understand that humans saw strength not only in physical ability, but also in kindness and courage. As days passed, Lyra grew closer to the crew. She shared meals with them, laughed at their stories, and even joined in small games and exercises. She began to feel a sense of belonging she had never known before. She realized that humans valued her presence and her abilities, and that gave her a new sense of purpose. One day, Jack took Lyra to the observation deck. They looked out at a nearby planet, its surface glowing faintly under the light of a distant sun. Jack explained that humans explored planets to learn about them, to find resources, and to help where they could. Lyra marveled at the idea of exploring new worlds and helping others, something she had never considered possible before. Lyra began to train with Jack more seriously. He taught her how to handle human equipment, how to move quietly, and how to think strategically. She quickly learned the importance of observation, patience, and timing. Jack noticed her talent and encouraged her to keep pushing herself. Lyra felt proud. She was not just surviving now, she was growing stronger and smarter. During this time, Lyra began to notice the differences between humans and Zalari more clearly. Humans valued emotions, teamwork, and loyalty. Zalari often saw emotions as weaknesses, and loyalty could be conditional. Lyra realized that humans' strength came from their care for each other. This insight changed the way she thought about trust and courage. Lyra also began to help in small missions. She assisted in scouting nearby planets, analyzing terrain, and reporting possible dangers. Jack guided her, but he allowed her to make decisions and take responsibility. Lyra discovered that humans trusted those who proved themselves, regardless of their background. She felt respected for the first time in her life. One night, as the ship drifted through space, Lyra stood on the observation deck, looking at the stars. Jack joined her quietly. "You've come a long way," he said. Lyra smiled faintly. She thought about her journey, from being abandoned and wounded to standing strong among humans. She realized how much she had changed. She no longer felt weak or alone. Jack spoke of the war that still raged in the galaxy. Lyra listened carefully. She knew that her species had plans that could harm humans. Jack explained that humans prepared not only to defend themselves but also to protect others. Lyra understood that humans believed in more than survival. They believed in justice and compassion. Lyra decided to help. She knew that sharing information could prevent unnecessary deaths. Jack encouraged her to speak, and she told him everything she knew about her people's plans. He listened carefully, taking notes and asking questions. Lyra realized that humans valued knowledge and strategy, not just strength. Together, Lyra and Jack began to plan small missions. They would gather information, warn human forces of potential dangers, and find ways to prevent conflict. Lyra felt a sense of purpose she had never known. She was not just surviving anymore, she was contributing to something larger than herself. During these missions, Lyra learned to rely on her instincts and her training. She moved quietly through strange terrains, observed enemy positions, and reported her findings. Jack guided her but allowed her to make independent decisions. Lyra felt proud of her abilities and trusted herself more than ever. Lyra also discovered moments of joy and friendship. She shared stories with the crew, learned to laugh at human jokes, and felt warmth in simple interactions. These moments reminded her that life could be more than survival and pain. She began to hope for a future where she could live fully, not just exist. One evening, Lyra and Jack were on a scouting mission on a small planet. They observed a group of enemy forces preparing for an attack. Lyra recognized some of the tactics her people used. She pointed out weaknesses and suggested ways humans could defend themselves. Jack listened carefully and nodded. Her knowledge was invaluable. The humans successfully avoided the attack thanks to Lyra's insight. The crew celebrated quietly, and Lyra felt a deep sense of satisfaction. She realized that trust, cooperation, and knowledge were powerful tools. She had been abandoned once, but now she was part of a team that valued her contributions. Lyra returned to the ship, her heart lighter than it had been in months. She had survived, learned, and grown. She understood humans better now, their courage, compassion, and willingness to help others. She had found not just safety, but a sense of purpose and belonging. That night, Lyra lay in her cot thinking about the future. She knew the war was not over, but she also knew that she was not alone. She had humans who trusted her, a friend in Jack, and a growing understanding of herself. Lyra realized that even in the darkest moments, hope could grow, and courage could shine. As she drifted to sleep, Lyra felt gratitude for the humans who had saved her, and patience for the journey ahead. She had been wounded and abandoned, but she had found strength, trust, and friendship. The galaxy was vast and dangerous, but with humans by her side, she knew she could face whatever came next. Her journey was only beginning, and she was ready. Lyra's recovery had transformed her into a capable and alert member of the human crew. Her body had grown strong again, and her mind had sharpened with training and observation. She moved through the ship with confidence, no longer the weak, abandoned Zalari who had struggled on the barren planet. Now she was alert, quick, and ready to face new challenges. One morning, Lyra stood on the observation deck scanning a nearby sector. Her eyes caught movement on a distant planet. She focused, recognizing patterns and formations that only someone trained in battle could notice. Her heart raced as she realized these were Zalari forces preparing for an attack. She had seen their tactics before, and now she had the chance to help the humans prevent a disaster. Jack Carter joined her, his expression serious. He watched her examine the data and maps. "What do you see?" he asked. Lyra pointed to the formations. "They are moving to strike a human colony. They think it will be easy. I know the weaknesses. We can warn them and prepare defenses." Jack nodded, appreciating her insight. Her knowledge could save many lives. The next hours were tense. Lyra and Jack worked with the crew to plan a warning mission. They calculated distances, determined the fastest routes, and prepared communication channels. Lyra's understanding of her species' tactics helped shape the plan. The humans listened carefully, valuing her input. Lyra felt a mixture of emotions. She was anxious about confronting her own people in a way that would oppose them, but she also felt determination. She had been abandoned once, but now she had a chance to act with purpose, to protect those who had cared for her. As the ship approached the target planet, Lyra helped relay messages to the human colony. They organized defenses and evacuated civilians from vulnerable areas. Lyra coordinated with Jack to ensure that every step was taken to minimize harm. Her knowledge of Zalari movements allowed the humans to anticipate attacks and prepare countermeasures. The first confrontation came as the Zalari fleet arrived. Lyra observed from the control deck, identifying weaknesses and suggesting strategies. Jack and the human commanders acted on her advice, setting traps and preparing defenses. Lyra's heart pounded, but she stayed focused, analyzing every movement and predicting enemy actions. The battle began, intense and chaotic. Lyra guided the humans from the control deck, providing critical information that allowed them to respond quickly. She saw the enemy retreat from traps ambushed by human forces. Her insight had turned the tide before the battle fully escalated. Humans she had come to know as friends were safe because of her. In the midst of the fight, Lyra realized the courage of the human crew. They were not only fighting for themselves, but for others. She compared it to the Zalari, who often acted out of fear or self-interest. Humans had a sense of purpose that inspired her. She felt pride in being part of their team. The battle continued for hours. Lyra stayed focused, providing analysis and tactical advice. Her presence on the ship made a difference. She understood the enemy's thought process, and her strategies allowed the humans to outmaneuver the Zalari at every turn. Lyra began to feel the power of collaboration, of trust and shared effort. After several hours, the Zalari forces retreated. Lyra breathed a sigh of relief. She had been worried about the outcome, but the humans had triumphed. Jack smiled at her, pride and respect in his eyes. Lyra felt a deep satisfaction. She had not only survived, but had played a critical role in protecting others. The aftermath was calm but busy. Humans repaired defenses, checked supplies, and cared for any injured. Lyra assisted, learning more about human methods of recovery and care. She noticed how they worked together, calmly and efficiently. It was different from what she had known, and she felt inspired. Jack spent time with Lyra after the battle. They walked through the observation deck, looking at the planet below. Lyra thought about the people she had helped, the humans who had trusted her, and the strength she had found within herself. She realized that her bond with Jack had grown stronger through shared experiences and mutual trust. Lyra also reflected on her species, the Zalari. She had once believed they were her family and her protection, but now she saw their weaknesses clearly. Fear and selfishness had led them to abandon her, and she understood that her loyalty had to shift. She chose to stand with humans who valued life, trust, and courage. The humans recognized her contributions. They treated her as an equal, a vital member of the team. Lyra felt a sense of belonging that she had never experienced before. Her past wounds, both physical and emotional, were healing in ways she had never imagined. She had learned that true strength included compassion, wisdom, and the courage to act. Days later, the ship moved to another sector. Lyra continued to train, participate in missions, and learn from the humans. She observed their problem-solving, their planning, and their care for one another. Every day she grew more capable and more confident. One evening, Jack and Lyra discussed the future. He spoke about exploration, discovery, and the ongoing challenges in the galaxy. Lyra listened carefully, feeling a sense of purpose. She realized that she had found not only survival but a mission, a reason to act and help others. The humans had given her that chance, and she embraced it fully. Lyra began to see herself not just as a survivor but as a fighter, a guide, and a trusted member of the human crew. Her skills, knowledge, and courage had earned her respect. She had been wounded and abandoned, but she had found a new life, new friends, and a new sense of purpose. In the quiet moments, Lyra reflected on her journey. She remembered the barren planet, the fear, the loneliness, and the pain. She thought about the humans who had found her, cared for her, and trained her. She understood that trust and courage could overcome fear, and that kindness and patience could heal even the deepest wounds. Lyra knew the galaxy was dangerous, and challenges would continue to come. But she also knew that she had allies, a purpose, and strength she had never imagined. She had been abandoned once, but now she was part of something greater. She had humans by her side, and together they could face anything that awaited them. As she looked at the stars, Lyra felt hope. She had survived, learned, and grown. She had been wounded and abandoned, but she had found life, trust, and courage, and she knew that this was only the beginning of her journey with humans, a journey that would shape her future and the future of those she cared for. Lyra had grown stronger and wiser over the months she spent with the human crew. Her wounds had healed completely, and she was no longer the scared, abandoned Zalari of the barren planet. She moved confidently on the ship, her eyes alert to every sound, every movement. She had learned to trust humans, and in turn they had learned to trust her. One day the ship received an urgent message. A sector nearby had been attacked and human colonies were in danger. Jack Carter and the crew prepared quickly. Lyra knew her knowledge of the Zalari's tactics could make a difference. She joined the planning, pointing out weaknesses and suggesting strategies. The crew listened carefully, valuing her insight and experience. Lyra felt a mix of fear and determination. She remembered being abandoned, wounded, and alone. Now she had allies who trusted her and relied on her. She knew she could not fail them. Jack stood beside her, calm and confident, giving her courage. Together they worked with the crew to organize defenses and prepare for the conflict. As the battle began, Lyra observed the movements of the Zalari forces. She recognized formations and patterns, predicting their attacks and advising the humans on how to counter them. Her knowledge turned the tide early. Humans moved efficiently, setting up traps, evacuating civilians, and defending key positions. Lyra's guidance saved lives and minimized destruction. The humans fought with courage, but they also showed compassion. They helped wounded allies, protected civilians, and worked together with unity. Lyra watched, amazed. She realized that strength was not just about weapons or skill, it was about loyalty, care, and courage. Humans fought not just to survive, but to protect others. Hours passed in intense combat. Lyra stayed alert, guiding movements, reporting dangers, and suggesting tactics. She moved between the control deck and observation points, her mind sharp and focused. She realized that her training and experiences had prepared her for this moment. She was no longer a victim. She was a leader and a fighter. Jack noticed her bravery and skill. He gave her space to make decisions, trusting her judgment. Lyra felt a surge of confidence. She had once been abandoned and helpless, but now she was vital to the human crew. Her actions mattered, and she could see the results of her choices. The Zalari forces grew frustrated as their attacks failed. Lyra observed their weaknesses and communicated strategies to exploit them. Human ships outmaneuvered the enemy, avoiding traps and countering attacks with precision. Lyra felt proud, realizing that she was a part of a team capable of triumphing against overwhelming odds. Finally, after hours of intense fighting, the Zalari forces retreated. The human colonies were safe and lives had been spared. Lyra breathed deeply, relief flooding her body. She had survived the battles, but more importantly, she had helped others survive. The humans had won, thanks in part to her guidance and courage. After the battle, the crew celebrated quietly. Lyra assisted in helping the wounded and repairing damage. She saw the humanity in action, the care, patience, and loyalty of people working together. She reflected on her own species and realized the difference. Zalari often abandoned those who could not fight, but humans believed in protecting and helping each other. Jack spent time with Lyra, walking through the corridors of the ship. He smiled at her, pride evident in his eyes. "You've done well," he said. Lyra smiled, feeling warmth and gratitude. She had grown from the abandoned, wounded girl into someone capable, strong, and respected. Lyra looked out at the stars, thinking of the journey that had brought her here. She had faced fear, loneliness, and pain, but she had also found trust, courage, and friendship. Humans had shown her a new way of living, one that valued care, collaboration, and hope. She felt ready for whatever the galaxy might bring next. In the days that followed, Lyra continued to train, explore, and learn from the humans. She took part in missions to protect colonies, explore new worlds, and gather intelligence. Each mission strengthened her skills, deepened her understanding of humans, and reinforced her trust in them. Lyra also began to teach other crew members what she knew about her species. She explained their tactics, communication methods, and strategies. The humans listened carefully, eager to learn. Lyra felt proud to share her knowledge and be valued as a teacher and guide. Her past abandonment felt far away now, replaced by purpose and belonging. One quiet evening, Lyra and Jack stood on the observation deck, watching distant stars and planets. "You've come far," Jack said softly. Lyra nodded, feeling the truth of his words. She remembered the pain, fear, and abandonment she had endured. Now she had trust, friendship, and purpose. Lyra realized that humans had changed her life completely. They had shown her that survival was not just about staying alive, but about helping others, learning and growing. She had been wounded and abandoned, but she had been found, saved, and given a second chance. That second chance had become a new beginning. Lyra smiled at Jack, feeling gratitude and hope. "Thank you for finding me," she said simply. Jack smiled back, his expression gentle. "We found each other," he replied. Lyra felt the meaning of those words deeply. Trust, courage, and care had created a bond stronger than fear or betrayal. Lyra knew that challenges would continue in the galaxy, but she also knew she had allies, strength, and knowledge. She had been abandoned once, but now she was part of something greater. She had humans who valued her, a friend in Jack, and a purpose that gave her life meaning. The future was uncertain, but she was ready. As the ship traveled through space, Lyra looked ahead with determination. She had been wounded and abandoned, but she had found life, trust, and courage. She had been saved and had grown into someone strong and capable. She knew that whatever came next, she could face it with humans by her side. Together they could overcome anything. Lyra's heart was full of hope and confidence. She had survived the worst, learned to trust, and found a family among humans. She had been abandoned, but now she had found strength, friendship, and purpose. Her journey had taught her that even in darkness there was light, and even after loss there was hope. Lyra was ready to face the galaxy, not as a victim, but as a fighter, a guide, and a friend. And this was only the beginning of her new life.